In the first video, I bought a cheap test bench / mining rig bench and turned it into a pretty simple budget PC case. All it took was a little ingenuity, cardboard, and a hot glue gun to create our case. And I loaded it up with some pretty low-end but decent esport or indie game level components. Overall, it's a pretty good build, and just for a little over $20 to house all of it, I think it's not bad. However, there are a few flaws, or rather the PC case has a few flaws, and so we are going to fix up this PC case so that it can run optimally and also not look like it just came out of a dumpster. So, follow along as we polish this cardboard box into a piece of thrift store art. Thrift store art? Well, I'm not sure what else to call it without demoralizing our case here. It's cardboard that has been shaped and glued together, so it doesn't have a lot going for itself right off the bat. It lacks character. That is why I had to think of several options for what we could do to make it look better, like replacing it outright using stickers, or doing something with a 3D printer even. But I wasn't satisfied with those relatively straightforward solutions. I wanted something simple but still custom to the individual, aka me. And so I went ahead and bought acrylic paint to get started on this project. Yep, painting is our solution. But trust me, I think this will turn out not too bad. Definitely better than what it looks like currently. Like, I like brown, but even this looks boring. So, the first thing I wanted to do was make sure this paint interacted with cardboard decently. You know, no warping the cardboard or changing the shade of our paint too much. And thankfully, even though this is a small sample, it looks like it does all right. And so as long as I apply an even coat, it should look the way you would expect it to without changing much after it dries. So what will I paint exactly? Well, I was thinking of making the whole thing blue to match our internal theme that I had when I built the PC to begin with. And then I thought I also could add an accent of yellow somewhere, like a strip across it all the way. You know, complementary colors. I sketched out a few concepts, workshopped my ideas until I decided to settle on this one. From there, the transformation began. I started with some initial cleanup, you know, fixing up some rougher edges, extra cardboard that could have been sticking out, and reinforced areas that might have needed more hot glue. Once all was said and done, I moved on to my final inspection and began to tape off some of the areas that I wanted to keep blank for the yellow strip I need, and I felt like I should keep the original shipping sticker, so I went ahead and taped him off too. You gotta remember where you came from after all. As a professional amateur, I painted the edges first, and any creases that would be hard to get on my first go. This will make it easier later when I detail or clean up any major spots I could miss. Once done, I pulled out my mini paint roller, a small container filled with our blue paint, and began to put out my first coat. It seemed pretty okay at first. I was honestly kind of concerned since the cardboard did seem to react to getting moist a bit, but when it did dry, it wasn't an issue in the end. I got every side plated up nicely with our blue, and went ahead and finished up with the top. So far, this looks pretty okay. My only concern was the paint bleeding through my masking tape, or not sticking to the duct tape, which I should have peeled off. But as you can and will see, everything is good. Well, so far so good rather. I still have a bit to go. I peeled off the masking tape, which thankfully went well for our tops and sides, and our paint job was ready to be finished with our stripe of yellow. I kind of freeformed it at first, which looked not bad, but I figured I would tape it off so I wouldn't get too much bleed since I will end up with a little green if I get sloppy, as you can kind of tell. And that might make the whole build look less than amateur when it is finished. So I painted and dried, and layered our yellow since it's a light color, detailed and filled in spots that were out of the way until eventually I was satisfied. I peeled off our excess tape, and hey, it looks like it's missing something. It looks kind of right now. Oh wait, yeah, that's right. Besides it kind of looking a little bland still, I promised a solution for airflow since that was one of its huge issues. Right, I'm sure that we can give this guy way more character and with a couple of fans in the front. So I once again sketched up some ideas, all with varying designs, until I decided to go with an offset hood scoop. kind of like on some of those old 80s and 90s cars. So let's get to that design then. I started off by figuring out where the placement of our fans will be on the front of our case. Once I found the spots and eyed where the screws will go, giving those spots light etched marks, I began to cut our holes for our fans as well. Once those holes were big enough for my liking, I painted them a little, and even though you might never see the edges since they will be very much covered by our hood scoop, I then began to line up our fans so they could be screwed down. I made sure no frayed cardboard was in the way of the blades also, and also figured that everything was solid, so I began to screw them in. This was probably the most challenging part as well, besides me doing this awkwardly. Screwing those fans onto the cardboard isn't super simple. I needed the cardboard in the way during the screwing process so that it could anchor itself better like how it would with plastic, and when I did make some mistakes, I had to use scrap cardboard as filler to make the process work at times. Regardless of all that, I was able to screw the fans down, and they were able to spin freely without catching onto the frame or anything like that. They seemed super stable, and the last thing I needed to do for them here was ruin some of the work of painting those inner edges by cutting them out so I could have as much airflow as possible. After I did my final inspection of our fans to make sure I didn't miss anything, it was finally time to get to our indented piece of cardboard. Well, we have to make it first, but yeah. I got a nice piece for our base, or the large part that will stick out, and I got to work on figuring out how much of it I want. I cut part of it to shape so I could get an idea of how much I wanted it to stick out, taped it down, and then moved on to our two other pieces that will hold it together. This way it will have that scoop look. After, once again, eyeballing everything, making the necessary cuts and guesstimates on how everything should look and be placed, I could cut and then paint our pieces, let them dry slowly, and go ahead and finish off the part of this PC case. I lined up everything to the best of my ability, glued them down, made adjustments, cleaned up and reinforced whatever spots that needed assistance, and finally, it is done. I will be honest with you guys, it doesn't look like a hood scoop. Partly because it isn't on a hood, and because honestly it looks more like, yeah. Well, to be fair, it does make the case look better, and improve the overall function and capabilities of this PC by a fair margin. I mean, I don't have any data showing before and after temps of our CPU and GPU, but come on guys, just look at it. It was definitely going to thermal throttle eventually without these modifications. So with that said, I think this is still a nice upgrade. However, I do feel like there is character still missing from this little guy. I have a few ideas for what I could do and how to make this look better, but I will save that for the final part. For now, let's wrap things up. So, what do you guys think? Does it look better? Worse even? Should I have done something different, like different colors, or should I have just left it as is in the beginning? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, like it. If you didn't, dislike it. If you want to see more videos, subscribe, follow me on Twitter maybe. Oh, and as always, thanks for watching.